Okay, so here we are, Battle of Castiglione. Now, this is, according to the author, basically the first battle in which Napoleon sort of showed his genius as a tactical commander in the way that he would sort of define a new style of combat, essentially. Where his main force would attack straight ahead, pinning Wormser? I said it was Wormster. With a frontal attack, and then have a flanking or outflanking force arriving. And it didn't fully work. The outflanking force, Fiorella, got there too soon. Wormser is able to pull out partially. This game continues until it ends, basically. Most of the scenarios in the game are going to have a time limit, but this particular scenario is just until you get the Austrians kind of off the map. And the victory conditions reflect Austria's desire to pull out rather than to fight, and they're badly outmatched according to the game design. The setup, we've already talked a little bit about that. Let's talk about this. So reinforcements, I've got 3 commands there, and their chits. Their chits go in the cup in turn 2. The units don't automatically come in, and strangely they come in if you roll higher than their activation number. I'm not sure quite what that's supposed to represent. Normally, I believe you want to roll lower when you're trying to activate a command. So let's see, the orders rating. That was my understanding. Yeah. So that's kind of odd, but the better the leader, the less likely he's going to show up. That seems particularly weird. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway. By the way, the orders chits may not be the same value. They have different values on them. One more likely than the other. The Austrians also follow their reinforcements follow the same rules. Somewhere, Massena is only going to have 1 activation chit at the beginning of the game, so he'll get an extra. Oh, do I get to choose which one? They're the same. Harshed. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind the choices for the command chits are. So, for example, 2 Massenas being the same, but everyone else pretty much having some disparity might indicate like this guy is more likely to do something but less likely to push his troops than Massena. It gives you kind of an interesting flexibility in the command ratings without adding any complex rules to the game. The French will have initiative for turn 1, so I get to choose a command to take. The French have the combined army group marker. They can use this once in the game. I don't know how many commands they can put under, probably a set. And you can make, I guess you get to choose which chits you're going to assign to that. Remember, at the beginning of the game, on the first turn, you don't have to roll for orders acceptance. So whatever units you put under orders, you just succeed with. But after that, if you want to change units, you're going to have to make a roll. Okay, artillery are small. All artillery units may stack in 1 hex if only artillery is in the hex. Okay, normally when you fire multiple artillery units, you just get a modifier of +2 for each additional unit. Here they're going to be able to sum their combat strengths, which is a little different. And this is not the first scenario given in the game. The first scenario is Rob. I think this is the second smallest scenario, but this looked fully approachable to me, so I'd rather do things in chronological order. Neither side can use an artillery barrage activation. Commands can attach an artillery unit in addition to those they already have. Okay, the Austrians, this was the issue I wanted to bring up. Some of the Austrian commands have like some attached cav to them. Those cav remain attached to the unit they're with until the Austrian player decides he doesn't want that to be the case anymore, and then they'll return to the unit that they're officially part of. The Austrians have a couple of redoubts down here. And their effects are given on the terrain effect chart, but they only cover the hex sides covered. They cannot be destroyed. La Rocca Tower and Solferino Castle. Oh, there's a Solferino. There's another Solferino. We'll have to see what they say. The castle hex in 4613 is loaded with terrain. I guess it's all that one hex. It's right here. Oh, I didn't explain how terrain operates in this game, which is kind of twisted. Here's how it works for here. When shock attack, the DRMs for Castle Woods and for most shock defending upslope are all cumulative. Units moving into the hex from Pozzo Catena, I guess this. They said 4613, didn't they? No, 4513, which is this, the little town that Wormser is in. Pay 3 movement points. Those go into the castle from anything else pay a cost equal to their entire movement allowance. There is a rule in the errata, I think, for Borodino, but maybe it's over in this errata, that allows you to always move a hex like most games have. Okay, so the commander's objectives are different. Bonaparte needs to smash Wormser. And Wormser is trying to keep the quadrilateral fortresses on the Mincio from being taken. He was aware he was outnumbered, although not quite prepared to be outgeneraled. But he's looking to stall the French, and you'll see the effects of that in a bit, and then withdraw back. So here's the victory conditions. The game ends in any turn in which the only Austrian units on the map are routed. When this happens, the Austrians will make 2 totals. All their non-routed units that they moved off the map through either 3800 and the road or through 4900. Jeez. 3800's up here. 4900 is over here. How is that worded again? All non-routed units he has moved off the map through either 3800 and the road, or through 4900, or to 6000, which is over here. Okay, so he has to leave through one of those big roads. And those are going to count in his favor. Any units that are eliminated is a different set of strength points that are added up. If the withdrawn total is greater than the eliminated, the Austrian player wins the game, if not the battle. If the eliminated total is bigger, Bonaparte wins. However, the Austrians aren't allowed to move any unit within 10 hexes of a withdrawal hex until turn 3. So they have to kind of stick around and fight a little bit. And that's about it. Now, when I was talking about terrain, here's the tricky thing with terrain. And I've never seen anything quite worded this way before. And I should have touched this in the rules, no question, but, well, people who don't watch the playthroughs don't need something like that. Where is it? Should be under shock. Terrain effects. See the terrain effects chart. If the attackers are shocking from hexes of different terrain, which would give different modifiers to the die roll. If the defender's in clear terrain with no possible terrain advantage, the attacker chooses which terrain modifier applies. If the defender's in any terrain which would give an advantageous modifier, the defender may choose which terrain modifier applies. What I think that is if you're like crossing a stream or something and the attacker will get a potential penalty from that. If the defender's in good terrain that would inherently give them an advantage, they get to choose whether units are crossing the stream facing them first and causing the penalty, or if they're not. But if it's clear terrain with no modifier directly applying to the defender in his hex, then the attacker gets the option to choose, I think. Otherwise, it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, because if there's no possible defensive terrain, I'm not sure what could come about for it. So, you know, for example, the elevation level changes and stuff like that. I think that's the kind of thing that comes into play there. But I don't know. I really don't. Right then. Normally, if you were playing this, you would mark all your units under orders or not, face down, etc. But since I'm soloing it, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to grab under orders markers for the ones I'm allowed. Napoleon's allowed 2, the center value here. And Wormy is only allowed 1. That other number there, that's his delay rating. Napoleon doesn't have one. He has no chance of his orders not being followed. He can change who's moving at any time when he's in command. And I think he's in command of all these battles. We have, well, I know he's in command of all except Rob. I'm not sure of that, but I assume he's in command in all of them. So I have to come up with my strategy, as it were. And this is not a simple scenario in the sense of, you know, I'm just going to plow forward, and I've got to actually do something here to be able to prevent the Austrians from pulling away. And likewise, the Austrians have to do something to prevent the French from being able to wipe them out before they can pull away, or at least cause significant damage. So the way I'm looking at it, my most important force, other than Fiorella, who comes in, I think, back here, is probably Messina. However, Messina has a fairly decent, well, everybody's got a fairly decent command number. Messina's only got 1 chit, though. I'd really love to get him running up here to come around the side, but I don't think he's capable of doing that. I may want to put him under orders anyway. I don't terribly want to get straight on into these breastworks, I would assume. They're on the terrain effects chart. Let's find what they're called. Not castles. You know, I'm not seeing them. Redoubt. There we go. Okay, so they have a certain movement cost, and they're going to give a -3 firepower, which means artillery will have a hard time against them, and a -1 shock. And I have to kind of worry about the guns here, and have a range out to 8. I'm just outside of their effective range, which I'm not really sure I want to change that. My next command of use is this brown one, Angara. And Kilmaine is mainly Cav, so I can't use him to storm that, obviously. What I'd like to do is slide Kilmaine around the backside. So I'm going to put him under orders. It's not like I have a lot of commands here. And I'm going to put, and I'll just use the little flags because they're more attractive. I'll put Angara under orders too, or Angara. Now, for the Austrians, they don't know where the French are going to have their command under orders. And this is blue. I don't know which he's attached to. We have this kind of dark green. This pink, I think, is part of the dark green. But this is part of this command, and I think it's part of the light green, actually, as a detached force. My reinforcements are coming in. Sorry for all this thinking, but it is kind of interesting, to me at least, so I'm sharing it a little bit. 3,800 is gotta be over here. Yeah. I'm not allowed to move within there in the first 3 turns. There's no errata for this that I'm aware of either. But my assumption is that I just can't enter that 10 hex range if I'm not already in it. So I'm hoping I can kind of cover with that. What would I want in command? You know, I think I want this green stuff in command. And that is... Let's see. Schwerin? I can't read it. It looks like Schubers. Okay. Well, we'll put him in command. And again, I don't know, you know, as the opposition player, what those chits are, but it doesn't really help me to make this more complicated mechanically. Now, who do I want to try to activate first? And I feel there I want Messina to be my initiative activation. All right, I'm going to pause because all this hard thinking about what my plan is, that's more than I'm used to having to do. And it's, you know, I'm just approaching a new game, and it's right up there. And there's a lot of thinking to do in this one, just in terms of having to figure out how I'm going to solve the puzzle of this scenario. Usually like to be a little more comfortable, which might be why the Rob scenario is the first one. It's probably pretty straightforward. Certainly small compared to the most of the ones in here. Another thing I forgot in the rules to mention, just because I skimmed them, when you're failing orders delays, you get a bonus on each succeeding turn. So you're not stuck forever without orders. It's just, it improves until you stop failing. Now I gotta make a roll for this guy. 0 through 5. Remember this GMT Berg, it's going to be 0. I didn't look it up, but I know it is. So I'm not going to be under command with Messina. And that means I can only use restricted movement, which is half my movement allowance. So I'm going to want to reposition units. I've got some firepower here. We should start with that, because if we're going to fire artillery, we have to do it first. My ranges are not good. 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there's 2 units here. That gives me a benefit to shooting unless those are Jaegers. I don't know if they may not cause that problem. They have different moving. See stacking rolls. Thanks. It'd be nice to spend the couple of words needed. Jaegers count as infantry. Yeah, I don't know if I saw any restriction. Let me look. Let me look in here. I guess they may have updated this. This is the kind of thing. So I'm interested in artillery fire, and in particular the DRMs. And I'm not seeing any little red dots that indicate that's different there. Of course, maybe it's in the original, but I don't think so. Okay, so I'm going to unload, and we only have half of movement allowance, but it is a stacked unit. So I'm maximum range, so -2. Oh, for each hex beyond effective. Wow, that gets bad in a hurry. But I'm only 1 hex beyond, so that's -2. And it's a mass target, so I'm at -1. Oh, that's not going to do anything. Wow. You need a pretty good roll. I shouldn't have fired. Okay. So I think I only get to move 1 hex, but that gets me some firepower there. And these guys, 1, 2. Does it cost me to move up terrain? Probably. Yep. It costs 1 for infantry to move up slope. Let's just do that. Could move here, and I'm kind of in danger of being charged if I don't, so I will. What about that woods and stream and all that? I bet you I can only move 1 hex. I can march forward. 6 hexes for dragoons. Okay, the road is going to probably cancel everything out. We got F. Trails do not negate movement point costs. Okay, that's trails, but not roads. I bet you these brown things are roads. Those gray things are, these guys are trails, I would bet. I mean, you see they kind of dead end in the village, you know. Probably not too big a deal. So, 1, how about downslope? And plus I'm looking at cav here. Oh, up on elevation level doesn't cost us anything. Okay, it was the slopes. Sure. I don't know what those are. Probably these guys. Okay, 1, 2, cross the stream. 3 into the woods. 4, 5, 6. Alright, I kind of want to be there. 1, I guess this is a little crest that I have to pay to go up. Is there some kind of crest or something like that listed here? Ridge. Ridge gives me an extra couple movement points. I can't move. And if I move here, I'll be out of command, which I don't know if that means anything if I don't assign Messena the command thing, but this is his only move. Okay. This will clear woods, so 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 4, 5, 6. Does that castle do anything? A couple of castles here. Castle B. See special rules on the Soloferno castle, but that's, I think I've got enough movement to get me into here. Not that it means much. Okay. And then we'll draw a chit for the next action, but I need more rest. Well, I don't know if I just haven't shuffled my pile well, but I got a series of Austrians in a row, and these guys I didn't want to move at all. I moved Schurz, I pulled him back a little bit into some slightly more defensible terrain, just to kind of refuse to flank a little. Nothing exciting happening, no artillery happening. I'm a little worried about Wormser here. I don't know if there are any rules about leaders, though, in terms of getting wounded. How about overall commanders? 6. Let's see if they've got any risk. They should. If it's entered, the overall commander flies away. Can't be hurt. Cool. Alright. So it's no danger to be there. Napoleon I pull back my cav. I'm going to use them to help with that outflank. You know, you're supposed to pin it down with the main force. It doesn't make sense to me. Then over here, let's see, this unit isn't doing anything. I'm onto this Moransky, or whatever his name is. What is it? Mitrovsky. Must be Rusky. That's this command here now. Where is it? Well, I wonder if that's not on the board. I can't see. Oh, it's the blue force. It's this reserve here. So now here's the question. Does the game reward reserves? I doubt it. Most games don't. So I'm going to chance this. I don't have a command there, so I need to roll a command roll. See if... Alright, so I only get half movement, but I'm going to kind of shift him to cover this flank. Why? Do I know what's going on? No, not really. Jeez. This is -1 there. Is he worse at commanding his own units? The units that are near him? Is that what it's saying? That's pretty goofy if it is. Yeah, that's his command die roll modifier. That can't be right. No, that's a bonus. Okay. Yeah, it's a bonus, a negative bonus to the die roll to the die roll. It probably doesn't hurt me much either way, and I can use the roads here to shift my forces a little bit. Get these guys up in the hill. Creating a bit of a gap there that I don't like. Now things get kind of interesting. Auguero has moved, and I've shifted my forces. This is prepared to make an attack. Now, I'm going to look in these rolls, because in the original rolls, it looks like Cav will just destroy this artillery, but without much explanation of what happens. It just says the artillery doesn't have any defense, and that they'll be destroyed. This is a target of a shock, so he's going to get a shot before the attack happens. But I want to make sure that I did this correctly. It's not a Cav charge. I went way too far for that to be allowed. So, let's see. I just found it here. Let's see what the roll is over in here, because I did see it here. Artillery 8.49. Let's see if that's stayed more or less the same. If attacked with units that must retreat, it must also retreat. If shock while alone in a hex, it is automatically eliminated. Okay, well, does that mean I break through? Anything else? Hard to tell. I think it's just eliminated. It doesn't seem to be... If the defender vacates his hex as a result of shock, the single attacking unit must advance. Okay. So we're in here. We've just killed this. We're going to put this over here because for victory conditions we have to worry about destroyed Austrians. Probably a mistake to weaken that side of the line or not to strengthen it or something, but I started out in position to attack it assuming that I made Auguero in command, and he's almost assured to be. I didn't get any kind of possible breakthrough or pursuit, so I think I just hit in there. But I forgot to fire my artillery. Let's get back here and take care of that first. Okay, so artillery fire. Don't look to me like the strength of the artillery means a damn thing. No terrain. The target not stacked. Range effect. I'm at 1 hex, so I get a +1. And that's it. Is that right? Let me make sure I understand artillery fire. So I've been plinking away with it. I got a disorder check on the approach here against the Austrians, but that didn't really do a damn thing. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe they add their strength. They must. Artillery fires using its fire strength. Okay. It's gotta be adding that, so artillery actually can have an effect, I suppose. Adding the range adjusted fire strength. Okay. So I am at a 4 firing. And I get a 13, which means I get a disorder cohesion check. If I roll higher than a 5, he's not going in. He's not going in. He gets flipped over to indicate he's disordered. And there's a little D there. We've seen that in the Great Battles, Great Leaders, the same symbol. I don't want to say symbolism. How about iconography? Symbolic representation. Okay, so that's him. Now there's another chip in the cup for that, but there actually are no more chips for this guy. Pickerick, whatever. Piachuk. Notably, this is the situation that I believe should be able to happen. I believe that one of these cav, this guy at range 3, maybe not this guy because he doesn't have a straight line of sight across, but this guy at range 3 would be able to countercharge this as it came up. The problem with that is the artillery, would they be able to fire if the countercharge is happening in the same hex? You know, all kinds of complexity comes to how you would actually manage that. And I want to play this game by the rules before I start tinkering with it. The intention of this game was to be kind of a light playing game. It just doesn't feel like the cav is able to protect the resources that it's attached to as well as it should. I'll also peek at the Borodino rules, see if they're a little different. Not terribly sure. I looked at the Borodino rules, and they definitely change. I'm not sure for the better. They point out two things that they changed primarily. One is the cav charges, and the counter charges do not handle what I want them to do, and that may just be too complex to try to handle in a game of this scale, or intention actually, not scale. And the other that they mention is they replace the routing rules with the withdrawal rules, which to me seems like it's a simplification. It's an attempt to say, okay, if a unit takes a disorder, instead of becoming routed and getting a little route marker, and you have to track it and fiddle around with it on the board, now it just goes into a little withdrawal box, and it may recover, it may not, and it's essentially the same effect. I know a lot of people online, or a couple of people, complained about rubber routes. You know, look, if the unit's able to come back in an hour or something, it doesn't make a difference whether it was on an off-board box where you couldn't hurt it. Actually, if anything, these routed units in the original rules are more vulnerable. And it's a little bit more fiddly, perhaps, than because the returning units return to their unit. They don't have to, try to come in off-board like in a Great Battles of History game. As to the cav, I'm not really sure how much I'm seeing here that's different. There's some differences surrounding, what was it? No, there was something, perhaps the pursuit rolls or something. I'm just not, the automatic disorder, I don't think that existed here, as an example. But given that I've spent the effort to learn the original rules, I think I'm going to hold off on the Borodino rules. I may end up incorporating them into another battle, but right now I want to play these with the rules that kind of came with the game. I don't think this is version 2.2 in here. I don't think it, and the, it's a significant rewrite, but I don't think it does a whole hell of a lot that I feel is particularly interesting. If my skimming had showed me something more interesting in terms of the cav charge, I might have been tempted in. The tables may be a little different as well. For one thing, for example, disorder recovery is not as easy. There's a chance your units are just destroyed. A bigger chance your units are just destroyed from trying to recover from disorder. If they fail, are destroyed. That I would rather watch units deteriorate, but that's just me. I might actually backport and use the original rules for this as well, if I'm happy enough with them. The Austrians repositioned some of what Spiegel, a little on the hill here. This became looking, the movement that I had of the Cav, Kilbane, was looking less and less valuable, especially given that I'm launching the attack here, so I swung them back around. I just didn't like them in the lead. Actually, they could have probably overrun the guns on their own. This was unlikely that they weren't able to. But that's going to be my main focus, is to take out the bastions. The Austrians, seeing this attack, have a real problem. These bastions aren't really defensible as they are, and unfortunately the leader who's in charge over there, I can't move him again anytime soon. There is still another one of Augio's chits in there, so, and there's nothing I can do about it, you know. It's just a matter of when things commit. I'm always a little iffy on chit pull and a lot of other things on that kind of, hey, you know, I'm standing here, what's going on? I see him coming. I can understand that I couldn't leave, but I kind of can't understand why I might have been able to. But that's just a matter of, it's all the initiative and the ideas of a commander, you know, getting the ability to move. Instead of doing it with a lot of die rolls, it's all kind of abstracted into the cup. I kind of like knowing why they're not leaving, but it's okay. To make an assault, I sent these guys over to attack these cav, thinking, oh, I got some cav to pin them down, I got more than 2-to-1 odds. Well, even with that, then I realized, no, they're pulsed, they don't act together, which means I'd fight this weak cav first, and then I probably don't want over there, actually. And then I'd have to fight this, in which case I could withdraw from the infantry, or if I attack with the infantry first, I can just withdraw right away. Over here, I charged again, and I got shot by the artillery. This time I'm able to take a flank attack, and this cav is unable to protect, of course, with that countercharge type stuff. And I really feel like it should have had that opportunity. Okay. Now, here, that's not happening. Here, it's an automatic success, however. Even though, oh, I have to attack both units that are in my... So, I have to attack this cav, but the cav can run. Well, it doesn't want to. So, my ruling on this is this combat is simultaneous. I have to survive the combat in location to finish off the guns. Okay. And the guns didn't have me in a front arc. I was able to cut to the side, so that's why they couldn't shoot me. So we're going to see our first shock. We'll have another one over here. But basically all these units just weren't good enough for me to throw up against the Austrian line. I like to have good odds when I attack in general. Okay. With charts like this, it's kind of random if you don't. But I may be in so much of a hurry. Let's see what we have here. Strength odds ratio is going to be 2-to-1, which will give me a +2. I gotta see if I go in. That's the first thing. Okay, I do. This had no firepower to reduce that, so it's just a cohesion check. We're not charging. So it looks to me like it's just +2. And we get a 6, which is Defender Automatic Disorder, and a retreat on a cohesion check. He holds where he is, but since I'm still where I am, this is gone, and I think I make my way in. And we did finally get a gun out. Okay, let's take care of this other one here. I've got to make a successful check to go in, and I do not. I don't take any penalty for it, only the top unit checks. They're the same though. Oh, and I would have had to take that 0 into account. Yep. So I think that's his activation. Okay, looks like my power didn't charge. I ran out of chits here. A couple of Austrians I didn't want to move particularly. Now we hit this reserve phase. Now in the reserve phase, what I would perhaps want to do is if I had something within range of the overall commander that I wanted to move at a risk of becoming disordered, or maybe if I had some rallies or something I wanted to do. I don't have anything of that nature as far as I'm aware. Command morale phase, I get to check for collapse and any routed units move. Neither of those is the case. Collapse is kind of tricky. I kind of want to copy these charts and how many units are in a command and mark things off. I feel like there's a player aid essentially missing here. Otherwise, I kind of have to count. Well, I can make a little sheet of my own probably. But basically, I have to count all the units in each command and have I hit 2/3. Obviously, right now I don't have to, and honestly, probably most of the time you don't have to. Somebody would probably notice, hey, that unit looks pretty hosed, and maybe point it out. But it's something that I could see being kind of a, you'd miss it sometimes just because there's no easy way of tracking it. And now the last thing is moving the overall commanders. Again, initiative player goes first. I'm going to push Nappy forward, I guess. I kind of want to keep this in command just in case I do make some die rolls for those guys. But on the other hand, I may want to pull Nappy over here and activate these two using my activation orders. That may make more sense. How much am I allowed to move them? I think I'm allowed to like fly them anywhere, basically. Very, very little in terms of restrictions and a lot of the stuff in this game. Overall commander is rule 6. Or maybe it's page 6. There we go. Movement allowance of 8. Okay. So I'm not going to be able to fling him over there. And for the Austrians, where do I want my overall commander? Well, it looks to me I'm only going to be able to pick one command that I can throw in as definitely active. I think I want that to be this command. So I'm going to move Wormser, even though it's maybe not the best place in the world for him, to here. That gives him the ability to influence all of those. Napoleon's not going to do much for me in terms of his placements. And now, I guess we push into the second turn, and there are a lot more chits. Now, other than the spare chit of Massena's, these others have to go in the cup. I'm not going to be able to take them as my chosen chit. I think this is a good time to load up as we enter into that second turn, just so that you can get some view of how the system kind of works. I'm still kind of stumbling with it, because it is a little new and different and a little more abstracted than I'm used to. So, there's aspects that are more rules heavy, in the sense that there's sort of a concept there that maybe isn't absolutely clear, and you have to look up the rules and try to figure out why it is to make it link to your brain so that you can possibly remember it. It's better than some games in that, but whenever they abstract games away too much, it makes them harder to remember what the rules are. And there are enough rules here that it's heavy enough that if it's not completely intuitive in terms of processes, it becomes more difficult to sort of ground those abstractions to your own understanding.